Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walah. Amma ba'd, we continue with the Muslim Mindset series, and today, inshallah azza wa jal, we speak about marriage. The points that we're going to mention today are mainly going to be beneficial for those that are not married yet, or those that are newly married, or those who, alhamdulillah, don't have problems in their marriage yet. For those that already have issues, this might help you a little bit, but maybe the reasons for divorce, which is still on Facebook, alhamdulillah, is probably going to be a little bit more beneficial for you, so you can go back to that. Just out of curiosity, who is not married? All the way up. Who he is not married? Not if you're 1 out of 4, just one. You know, one. Most of you. Khair, inshallah. This will be beneficial for you, inshallah. Tayyib. From the matters which a person needs to keep in mind when it comes to marriage, to have it as your mindset, is that you are completing half of your deen. The hadith regarding completing half of your deen is a weak hadith. But the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Man razaqahu Allahu imra'atan salihah, faqad a'anahu ala shatri dinihi, falyattaqillaha fil shatri al-baqi." Whoever Allah Azza wa Jal blesses with a righteous woman, then he has completed half of his religion. So let him fear Allah with the remaining half. This hadith is weak, but the meaning of the hadith is correct. That if a person is blessed with a righteous woman, this makes his religion easier, and it makes his dunya easier. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Ad-dunya mata' wa khayru mata'iha al-mar'atu salihah." This world is all of it. This world is all provisions, and the best of its provisions is a righteous woman. And we know the famous hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, "Tunkahu al-mar'u li-arba'," that the woman is married for 4 main reasons. And he said at the end of it, "Fadfar bidhati ad-din, taribat yadak." Marry the righteous one, marry the righteous woman, may your hands be blessed. So we know that it is very important that a man gets married to a righteous woman. And that is super. Some of the sisters say, what about us? It means you be that righteous woman. So the woman works on that righteousness. That righteousness includes her being upright with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also upright in herself, with her character and her dealings. As the Prophet ﷺ said regarding the men, إِذَا خَطَبَ إِلَيْكُمْ مَنْ تَرْضَوْنَ دِينَهُ وَخُلُقَهُ. If a man comes to ask for your hand, and you're happy with his religion and his character. So marriage is like completing half of your religion, even if the hadith in and of itself is weak, but the meaning is correct. When you want to get married, you want to marry a righteous woman. You want to marry a righteous woman. This is going to make, inshallah azza wa jal, your deen easier to implement. When it comes to your prayers, someone to assist you. When it comes to you being able to lower your gaze, there's someone to assist you. Someone to encourage you to go to the lessons, to go to the masjid. It's easier for you. You don't have the problem that many spouses have, where one of them wants to be religious and the other one's always holding him back. The husband wants to pray Isha in the masjid, and the wife is always like, "Why are you always going to the masjid? You never spend time with me." Or the opposite. Sometimes the woman, for example, she wants to put on niqab, or she wants to wear jilbab, and the husband says, "Don't wear that, it makes you look old." So don't marry a person who's not righteous, because it's going to be counterproductive for your religion. Marry someone who's going to assist you with your deen. A righteous person, yarhamakallah, a righteous person is also going to help you in dunya. For example, if you're doing it a little bit tough, they're going to tell you, "No problem, we'll be patient, inshallah. We'll live according to our means." But you marry a person who's not righteous, and there's a good chance, because they don't fear Allah Azza wa Jal, they tell you, "Okay, we're doing it tough, but what's wrong with taking a loan? Go and get a credit card, go and get a personal loan, go and get a car on finance, go and get a house on riba." Doesn't matter. We do it, we do it. Everyone else is doing it. Okay? Or for example, you're doing it tough in life for whatever reason, the righteous person is able to give you things that relax you in matters of dunya. Like your reading of Quran, like your afkar in the morning and evening, like making dua to Allah Azza wa Jal. All of these benefits you even in dunya. Whereas a person who's not righteous, ayyadan billah, maybe they encourage you to do bad things. Let's go to this place, let's go to that place, let's go out with these people, let's go listen to this, let's go watch that. And all of it leads you to further issues in your life. A person who you marry that's righteous, inshallah will assist you in your deen, and will assist you in your dunya. And when you marry someone who's not righteous, then this will cause you problem in both. Number 2, marry the spouse you want your children to be like. Most women, when they get married, they use their aql. Most women, when they get married, they use their aql. A lot of girls, yes, they get played. Yes, they get laughed at. When it comes to boyfriend and girlfriend short-term relationships, the guy who speaks to them nicely, the guy with the bigger muscles, the guy with the nicer car, he's able to do whatever he wants. But when it comes to marriage, most women, they use their intellect that this person I want for a long-term relationship. This person I'm going to live with, inshallah, for a long time. This person is the one I want to spend the rest of my life with. Unfortunately, so the women have it good in that regard. A lot of women, now they're starting to suffer. Now they're starting to suffer because they're making long-term decisions based on what they would appreciate in the short term. So, for example, the girl comes and she says, I want to marry, for example, a bad boy that just repented. The guy, she wants him, tabarakallah, covered in tats. He was a bikie for 13 years, but now, tabarakallah, he prays Qiyam al-Layl. There's a good chance you're not going to marry the one that you want long term. Do you want your son to be that person? Do you want your son to be that person? Or she sees certain other women enjoying certain things from dunya, and their husbands are drug dealers or whatever it is, a'yadhu billah, and she says, I want to marry the same person so I can have the same accolades when it comes to the appreciation I get in society, and I also get the things that he buys his wife in dunya, the Louis Vuitton and the holidays, and. So you say to yourself, okay, do you want your son to be like that in the future? If you were a mother, is that who you want what you want your son to be like? Or for example, the guy's in and out of jail, and she thinks that's a good thing because he's attracted to the bad boys, tabarakallah. Do you want your son, when he's older, 20 years old, for example, to be in and out of jail? Is that what you want? If that's not what you want, then don't marry a role model for him like that. Don't marry a role model for him like that. Someone who's repented properly and left that life properly, and he doesn't boast about that life, then no problem. A person who repented, we can overlook that mistake that they made. Not an issue. But a person who's still in it, or he's still proud and he boasts about what he used to do, you need to ask, is that what you want your son to be like? You see some of these children, subhanAllah, innocent children. He's 5, 6 years old, his father shaved his head and left a long mullet, for example. Or he's 5, 6 years old and they've left for him red tails. Or he's 5, 6 years old and they get him to swear. Or he's 5, 6 years old and they get him to try and fight everyone. Okay, now it's all fun and games. Because you're a father, tabarakallah, you're a macho man. This is what you want your son to be like. When your son's 15, 16 years old, he gets stabbed because he was being a tryhard and someone stabbed him. Or someone shot your son when he was 16, 17 years old. Or your son enters jail, in and out of jail his whole life. Or he gets addicted to drugs. Are you going to be happy at that time? You're not going to be happy at that time. It's all fun and games until he gets serious. If you want to lower the chances of your child ending up like that, then you don't marry that person. So for the sisters, don't marry that type of guy. Same thing for the men. The men have a bigger problem with this. Because the men, most likely, unfortunately, we're willing to follow our lusts and desires when it comes to choosing a spouse. We don't think with our brains, we think with something else, unfortunately. And so a lot of guys, they get married to a woman they're attracted to. Not asking themselves the question, is this the woman I want to raise my daughters? When I have daughters, inshallah, this is going to be their role model. Is that the woman I want my daughters to be like? If the answer is no, then don't go after such a woman. The girl that you meet up with at 10:30, at 11 o'clock, at 12 o'clock, who she's like to her parents. Baba, Mama, I'm at this person's house. But really she's meeting up with you. Is that what you want your daughter to do in the future? No? Then don't marry a girl like that. A girl that you and her have been going back and forth on Instagram and Snapchat for the past 6 months. And she sent you the most immoral of pictures. Is that the woman you want to raise your daughters? Is that how you want your daughters to be? If the answer is no, then don't marry a woman like that. Someone may say, Tayyib Shaykh, people change. We're going to get to that point, inshallah. Yes, correct, people do change. But don't put yourself in a position where the likelihood of them making a complete change is very minimal. Learn from the mistakes of others. Always we repeat this. The smart person is the one who learns from his mistakes. The genius is the one who what? Learns from the mistakes of others. How many mothers, and I'm sure many of you also know, how many mothers do we hear of that we know personally sometimes? They'll say about their daughters talking to boys, I know my daughter talks to boys, and I will cover for her because I don't want her father to find out. So the daughter talks to boys, and the mother covers and lies for her when she meets up with him and the like, because she doesn't want the dad to find out, because the dad will get angry. Or some mothers say, what's the point of me, or how can I tell my daughter that don't talk to boys? I'll be a hypocrite. Why? Because I used to talk to boys. So she's just talking, not an issue. Let her talk to boys because I used to. I'll be a hypocrite if I tell her don't do that. Or, for example, she says, I would rather my daughter do it in front of me than behind my back. All of these things which the shaitan inspires to people, which are completely wrong, and they're only going to lead to further issues in the future. This is what many people say. If you don't want a wife to do that with your daughters, don't marry a wife that done it with you in the first place. Now, so this thing does not become a norm. Marry the woman that you want your daughters to be like. You want your daughters to be chaste? Marry a chaste woman. You want your daughters to be modest? Marry a modest woman. You want your daughter to wear proper hijab? Marry a woman that wears proper hijab. You want your daughters to respect you as parents? Marry a woman that respects her parents. You want a woman who knows how to, you want daughters who are looking to get married to a righteous man? Be the righteous man that your daughters, be the righteous man that your wife is looking to marry. Whatever you want your daughters to be like, marry a woman like that. Marry a woman like that. And for the sisters, obviously, marry a man like you want your sons to be. Number 3, be realistic. Be realistic in your expectations of a spouse. Don't expect too much, and don't drop your standards too low. We have a lot of problems with some brothers expecting way too much, and other people expecting nothing at all. We have a bigger problem with the first one. Some brothers, they want a woman who, Allahumma barik, yani, looks 10 out of 10. I won't give any names, but she looks 10 out of 10. On top of that, she wears complete niqab. On top of that, her father gave her $3 million as pocket money, saver for you when you get married to spend on your husband. On top of that, she has to be the most obedient of people. On top of that, she has to pray Qiyam al-Layl at least 3 hours a night. And they put all of these other crazy expectations. Tayyib, are you going to find that woman? There's a very high chance you're never going to find that woman. Yes, I'm not going to tell you maybe she doesn't exist. But, Allahu A'lam, based on your own experience of the past 10 years you haven't found her, there's a good chance the next 10 years, Habibi al-Qalbi, you're also not going to find her. There's a very good chance you're also not going to find her. Does the Loch Ness Monster exist? Possibly. Has anyone found the Loch Ness Monster? Not yet. Same thing with the woman that you're looking for. If you put your expectations too high, this could cause you massive issues when it comes to marriage. Because it means a lot of time you're not going to get married at all. Because every woman has a problem. She's too tall, she's too short, she's too wide, she doesn't pray Qiyam al-Layl, she doesn't teach Quran, she doesn't fast Mondays and Thursdays, she hasn't memorized the Quran. You want to have a good standard. What do you want in a wife? What's the average that you can build off? Her character is very good, mashallah. She does her obligations. She has a love of the deen. You and her agree on the major things that you want in life. Beautiful. Get married and work towards what you want. But to put the bar here before she's married, this is most of the time not possible. And don't expect too low either. Some brothers, they're wishful thinkers. Islam did not come for you to be a wishful thinker. Islam is not some fantasy, some mystic way. The Prophet ﷺ, if Allah wanted to give him victory in Mecca by himself, couldn't Allah Azza wa Jalla do it? Of course he could have. But Allah Azza wa Jalla put him through the whole process. 13 years the Prophet ﷺ was oppressed in Mecca. Then they had to leave Mecca because the Muslims couldn't implement their religion anymore. Then they had to build the city in Al-Madinah. Then they started to expand slowly. Shows you that there's a process. Be realistic. Allah made means in this dunya. Take the means in order for you to be good and upright. Some people, they put their expectations so low in 2 ways. Number one, they'll say, for example, they're religious, tabarakallah. So they go, I want to marry a girl for her deen, even if I'm not attracted to her at all. He has like zero, between him and the Puma bottle is more attractive to him. Zero attraction, no attraction at all. But he says, I want to marry her for her deen. Okay. You marry her for her deen, you as a human being, How long can you be with this person for before it starts to take a toll on you? That you're not attracted to her. Because you want to be able to sleep with your spouse. You want to be intimate with your spouse. That's her right as well. So you say, but I'm not attracted to her. And then when you may, for example, you have times of low iman and the attraction actually starts to matter now to you, you have a problem. No. The ulama, they told you, look at a woman's attractiveness. And Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, his famous statement that look at a woman's beauty before you look at her deen. A lot of people look at, hey, a'udhu billah, how does Imam Ahmad, an imam, say this? He says, because if you're happy with her looks, then you get to her deen. And the final decision is based on her deen. As for if you go for her deen first, and mashallah, her deen ticks all the boxes. But then when it comes to her attractiveness, you say, no, I'm not attracted, I don't want to marry her. So you left the good part of her deen and you made the final decision about something worldly, which is her looks. So look at her first. Make sure that you're attracted to her first. If she's someone, and if he's someone, the sister, that you can wake up next to, inshallah, every morning, okay, beautiful. Even if they're not a 10 out of 10, but they're, tabarakallah, they're acceptable, no problem. As long as they're acceptable to you. And then look at their deen. Be realistic. Some others also say, I'm so desperate, I'll marry whatever. Don't say, I'm so desperate, I'll marry whatever. This is the first one, they try to be religious, but they're incorrect. The other ones, they're just desperate. And they say, akhi, inshallah, tissue box comes, I'm going to marry tissue box. I don't care. Whatever comes my way, I'm going to marry. This is also wrong. Because, again, you don't want short-term gain for long-term pain. There's no point in you saying, yes, let me get married now, and then for the rest of your life, you live in agony. No. Marry a person that you actually believe is going to help you with your deen and your dunya. There's no such thing called being desperate. Be desperate is better than being in problems your entire life. Don't be desperate. Be patient. Okay, the Muslim has patience. The Quran is full of the commands from Allah Azza wa Jalla telling us to be patient. And that includes in marrying the right woman. Don't marry a woman that you know is not what you want. No, in deen, not in dunya. And you're going to live in agony. Same thing with the sisters. You're going to live in agony your entire life because this was a bad person that you married, but you got desperate. La, don't be desperate, be patient. When it comes to being patient, there are things that help you be patient. When it comes to marriage, a lot of the male's frustration is sexual. Okay? He says, like, Shaykh, the fitness all around me, I struggle to not fall into zina, etc. We said, okay, no problem. One brother said, Shaykh, if you don't marry me, the zina that comes on your neck. I said, it doesn't work like that. I go, try getting off social media first and see how that works for you. He goes, good point, Shaykh. Okay? There's things that help you be patient. If you're on TikTok, okay, and you're not married, even if you're married, it's even worse if you're married. Because it means you shouldn't be married as a person. Okay? But if you're on TikTok, what do you think is going to come up? You know what you're going to watch. You know what's going to happen. Instagram, same thing. Snapchat, same thing. If it's on 30-degree days, you go to the beach. Sheikh, I don't know why. The fitness too much. Hey, what are you doing? Look where you're going, Habib al-Qalb. What do you think is going to happen to you? Obviously, it's going to be too much. Some will say, Sheikh, I'll try fasting. Habib, there's fasting, there's lowering the gaze, or you have to do all of it together. Someone's, for example, cold. He says, I was wearing jackets, but I don't know, I was too cold. Because you had the aircon on 18, full blast. You have to do everything together. Yes, you're cold, you put your jumper on, for example, you have a blanket, maybe you put the heater on, you do everything together. Don't do one thing and leave everything else. A lot of brothers do this, unfortunately. Don't go to the places or do the things that you know are going to be a massive fitna for you, and then complain, I can't handle it, I need to get married. And then you go marry a woman, she's got no deen, no dunya. This is very, very, very sad. And we see a lot of brothers actually drop off being religious, not religious, but they were doing good. Like they would come to lessons, they would come to Isha, they had a love for the deen. And you find they went very, very, very far back. Why? Because they got desperate and they married a woman who was not good and they went very far away. And for the sisters, most sisters, again, they're much better. The women are much better when it comes to this because they think intellectually a lot more when it comes to marriage. They're not as driven by their desires as men are. Okay, they want a companion, they want someone to look out for them, they want a friend, etc. So if the guy doesn't tick those boxes, doesn't fit that criteria, they say, don't worry about it. Okay, they get married for a lot more beneficial reasons. So they don't have as much of that problem, but at the same time, If a woman says, look, I just want to get out of my dad's house. I just want to get out of my dad's, I can't stand being here anymore. Hey, the first guy that knocks on my door, I'm gone. Okay, again, don't make that mistake. Yes, it may be hard, but going to someone's house who you can't stand and it leads to further issues and going to make life harder for you. So be realistic. Number 4, marriage is intended to be long-term. Marriage is intended to be long-term. When you get to know your spouse, okay, in that engagement period, ask the questions and get to know the things that are long-term, inshallah. What's her plan in life? What's your plan in life? What do you want from a wife? What does she want from a husband? What's your intention for kids? Work, study, where you live. Speak about these things so that inshallah Azza wa Jal, it makes your marriage easy. A lot of people, they get married and they focus on the lovey-dovey stuff. Okay, the emotional stuff. The stuff that dies after 2.5 weeks. Then they left with the real stuff. Oh, hold on a second. You didn't tell me you want kids early. No, I want kids straight away. No, I don't want kids straight away. Okay, there's problems now. Or you didn't tell me I can't work. No, I told you you can't work. No, we never spoke about it. Okay? Or I thought it was automatic. Whatever I say you're going to do. Problems. I want to live in this state. But you said we never spoke about moving. If I knew you wanted to move states, I would have never lived with you. I would have never got married to you. Now, so speak about the big things that could cause issues later on, that you know are important. Speak about it before you get married. If you're already married and you didn't speak about it, then make sure there's proper communication regarding those big things, because they do affect both parties and they can affect both of them significantly. Also, regarding this point, don't hasten to divorce. Don't put in your mind that I'm gonna divorce. Don't threaten your wife with divorce. One of the best pieces of advice I got from my father, rahmatullah alayhi, was, don't think of divorce. If you need to get divorced eventually, no problem. If you're bad or my daughter is bad, no problem, get divorced. But don't keep it in the back of your head, on the tip of your tongue, that anything happens, you're divorced. Okay, and some brothers, they have a big problem with this. They have a massive problem with this. Their wife, for example, done something wrong. Or they had an issue with their wife. And then they threaten with divorce. Don't threaten with divorce. They say, for example, if you do this, wallah, I'll divorce you. So the wife, on purpose, because the wife is emotional now. Now she's emotional. She does it just to see if he's a man or not. And then now he's going to prove that he's a man. If he doesn't divorce her, he's going to be under the thumb for the rest of his life. And so what does he do? He says, no, I'm going to be a man. You're divorced. No problem. You're divorced. What happens? She starts crying. How can you divorce me? And now he calls the Shaykh. Secretly crying as well. Okay? Shaykh, I was angry and I divorced my wife. I heard if I'm angry and I divorce my wife, it doesn't count. It's a big misunderstanding. The only time your being angry doesn't count if you divorce your wife is if you were to the point where you don't understand what you were doing in the first place. In which la'im divorces his wife when times are good. If a person is that low of a human being that his wife done nothing wrong and he says you're divorced, inshallah she does her iddah because she shouldn't be with a person like that in the first place. Unless he learns. Obviously you're going to be angry. There's going to be problems when you divorce your wife. That's normal. So to say, oh, I was angry. Of course you were angry. That's why you divorced in the first place. What level of anger means that you're not divorced? The level of anger where you didn't know what you're doing anymore. There are some people that black out when they're angry. They say things, they do things, they have absolutely no idea what they were saying or doing. If you knew what you were doing, even if you were angry, then your divorce counts. And there are some guys that have been divorced 5, 6, 7 times. 5, 6, sometimes more with their wives, but they keep going and lying to mashayikh, or they go to 1,000 mashayikh until they find one that says, no, you weren't divorced. If you know that you divorced your wife and you knew what you were saying, your marriage is haram. Your marriage is void. You and her are living in haram. You're sleeping with each other in haram. You're living together in haram. Children that you have after that are in haram. If you know you divorced your wife 3 times, khalas, you cannot be with her. She has to get married again, a proper marriage. And that marriage needs to be consummated. And if they get divorced, then she can go back to you. But wallah, I know I've divorced her 3 times. And I go and shop around 1,000 mashayikh until one of them says, you can get back together. You know you're doing wrong. And you can lie to as much people as you want. Between you and Allah Azza wa Jal, you're going to be held accountable. Because a marriage is long term. Solve the problem from the beginning by discussing them. and agreeing on them before you're even married. Okay? And number two, don't make a divorce easy and don't leave it on your tongue for it to be. As soon as something happens, you say it. Number five, from the matters that a person should have as his mindset when it comes to getting married, or if they already are married, that you're marrying the person you're marrying. Explain that, Abdul Rahman. You're marrying the person that you're marrying. You chose that person? I hope so. What else? Explain more. Rayhan.
You don't expect her to change?
Very good. Don't expect the person to change. A lot of people, they think, I'm going to get married to, doesn't matter who it is. And I'm going to mold them to how I want them to be. Doesn't work. Maybe there's like 5-10%, maybe 5-10% room to change. But it's not like how it used to be. The Lebanese, we used to have a saying. المرأة شو؟ تضرب مرتين. مرة عند أبوها ومرة عند زوجها. The woman is nurtured twice. Once at her father's house, the second time at her husband's house. Yes, 100%. In countries where this is the norm, where the woman is raised from a young age and she's taught that you have to be how your husband wants. Beautiful, no problem. Yeah, you can do that. In Australia, is that how they're raised? In Australia, الرجل يتربى مرتين. مرة عند بيت أمه ومرة عند زوجته. Okay, la, this is, a person needs to be realistic. The woman that you're marrying is the woman that you're marrying, and the man that you're marrying is the man that you're marrying. And this is why before the marriage is so important. This is why before the marriage is so important. For you to make sure that we agree on these things. We agree on these things. Again, maybe 5% change, maybe. But to marry a woman, for example, who doesn't wear hijab. And then to think, wallah, after you get married, she's going to put on the hijab. Possible, it's possible. But likely, not as likely as you think. Then on top of that, if she puts on the hijab that you want, the Sharia hijab, the hijab that the Sharia wants, most likely not. On top of that, to act like a proper mutahajjiba, unfortunately what we see, wallah, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, out in the cafes, driving with the windows down with a cigarette out the window and pumping Tupac, Allah yadiyon. She doesn't even know who Tupac is. Okay, but that's what we want. All the hijabis on TikTok, fighting in karate and mashallah, Allahu alam what they're doing. Is that what you want as your wife? Tayyib, if you don't want that, don't expect to marry something like that. Oh no, inshallah she's going to change. La, don't do that. Don't do that. Okay, marry a woman that you believe is a very good foundation. And it's going to be hard, of course it's going to be harder. You be that man, and sisters be that woman. Okay? For you to marry someone very far and expect them to change, very, very, very hard. Same thing, let's just say a sister, for example, a sister wants to marry a guy that smokes. Don't think that, wallah, the night of your katbek dab, he's going to quit smoking. It's not something easy. For you to change how a person's been for the past 5, 10, 15, 20 years, is not something simple. And to get them changed overnight, some people will change. But the problem is, like, go get, for example, a branch, or go get a whip, or whatever it is, okay, and bend it. Most of the time, as soon as you let go, a little bit of pressure, what happens? It goes back exactly how it was. Okay, you put a bit of pressure, like the rib the Prophet ﷺ described. If you put too much pressure, it's going to break. Okay, and that break means divorce. And if you let it go, it goes back to how it was. That's the person that you married. That's the person that you married. And people aren't patient anymore. People don't care about divorce. They get divorced very easily. Okay, it's not how you want to be, divorced. Or it means one of the parties compromises. And again, this is what most likely happens. Because the reason you got married to a woman who shouldn't have been married in the first place, or the reason you got married to a man who shouldn't have been married in the first place, is because you wanted to marry that person. So now that they show you things that are not good, you want to stay with them, and the only way you can stay with them is if you compromise. Happens all the time. A brother marries a girl who's not that religious, or a sister marries, this is much less the women, they marry a guy who's not that religious. The one who was religious ends up compromising, lowers the standard of their deen in order to not have issues with the other spouse. Happens a lot. The majority of the time, the brothers marry a woman like that, and they end up lowering the level of their deen. Why? Because they married a person thinking that they're going to change. They never expect that. Okay? Marry a person, if a person's not 100%, but mashallah, they've got a lot of good traits, my personal advice is get those traits fixed before the katb al-kitab, before the nikah, before the writing of the contract. For example, she doesn't wear hijab, but she ticks every box except the hijab box, for whatever reason. Before you do the katb al-kitab, before that, hijab. Okay? He smokes, before you do katb al-kitab, to quit smoking. Whatever the issue is. Why? So that you're not locked in. And the person's proven that they can do it before. Once you get married to that person, now they can use the excuse. But you married me like this. But you married me like this. If you didn't like it, why didn't you stop it before the marriage? If you didn't like it, why did you get married to me in the first place? Okay? So this is very, very, very important. Very important. You're marrying the person that you're marrying. Number 6, you're marrying into a family. You're marrying into a family. If you're the guy, when you get married to the girl, you're not getting married to her individually. You're getting married to her, but there's baggage that comes with her. Yes, you have to do with the father-in-law and the mother-in-law and the sister-in-law and the brother-in-law and the nieces and the nephews. You have to do with her side of the family too. And the same thing with the women. When you get married to a guy, you got your mother-in-law and your father-in-law, your sister-in-laws and your brother-in-laws and the nieces and the nephews, and that's side of the family. A lot of people, they're getting married with this, well, it's a very, very, very bad mindset, and it's because we're growing up in the West, we have it a lot more, where it's all about me. It's all about me, my comfort. And anything I don't like, I just get rid of, even if it's my own parents. And so they say, if I'm willing to drop my own parents if they discomfort me, then when it comes to my in-laws, I'll drop them even quicker. And this is wrong Islamically. Silat al-Rahim is a massive thing. To keep the tie of kinship is a massive thing. And to break it without an Islamic justification is a major sin. And it's from the biggest of major sins. Especially when it comes to you encouraging your spouse to break off the tie of kinship with their mother or their father. This is a massive, massive, massive issue. Whether your husband that expects that and does it to the wife, or your wife that does it with the husband. One story I recently was told of just on Friday after Jummah. One of the brothers, yassar Allah umurahum, his mother's passing away. She's on her deathbed. He called his brother to come and see the mother because she's on her deathbed. The brother hasn't seen her for a very long time. Hasn't seen her for a very long time. 35 years ago, the older brother took her to Hajj. Imagine. They're not little kids, they're older people. 35 years ago, the older brother took her to Hajj. But Allahu Alam, what's happened to him since? He hasn't seen his mother for a very long time. So, she was on her deathbed and the hospital said, call whoever you can because she's going now. He called the older brother. The older brother came. They're sitting in the room. The daughter-in-law was playing Quran next to the mother's ear. The mother, alhamdulillah, came back completely normal. Completely normal. Instead of saying, alhamdulillah, my mother stayed alive and maybe I can fix the relationship with her, the older brother said to the younger brother, I thought you told me she was going to die. I thought you told me she was going to die. They ended up taking a photo, them brothers and sisters, and they left. The younger brother put it on his Facebook that alhamdulillah my mother's good, etc, etc, etc. One person came to the younger brother and said, your older brother is asking if you can take the photo down. He said, why? He said, so his wife doesn't see it. So his wife doesn't see it because she'll get angry that he was with his mother and his family. Correct? Maybe, I don't know the other side of the story. What happened? But how bad does something need to be for you to be upset that your husband went and seen his mother who's about to die any second now? Any second she's about to pass away. She's very, very, very old. The younger brother is in his 60s. The younger brother. Imagine how old the mother is and the older brother. This is a reality that people are facing. And again, I'm sure you guys know many stories even in your own families. Where certain people unfortunately are like this. Where, I don't like the way she looked at me. I don't like a comment that she dropped. I don't like this. I don't like that. She said this, or she said that, or she said this to my son, or that to my child, and you're willing to drop them. Be very, very, very careful. Yes, there are times, but there need to be very big reasons. Very big reasons to cut off family members. Very big reasons. You do things like, they said a comment. They said a comment. Or they spoke to my child. and I don't like anyone speaking to my child. These are not reasons. These are not acceptable reasons. We say, yes, no problem, cop it and move on with your life. It was a one-off. Okay, or it's something that you can handle. Move on with your life. That's the mother, that's the mother-in-law, that's the father, that's the father-in-law. Inshallah, for those that have children, you already know. And for those that don't have children, may Allah bless you with righteous, healthy children, you know. When a person has a child and what he does for his child, people go to the moon and back for their children. People sacrifice everything they have for their children. Only for when the child gets older, to have someone come from outside of the family. Because they said to the, oh, can you please help this? Or why didn't you help with that? And that's it, you don't want to speak to them again? A'udhu billah. You spent 15, 20 years raising this person, feeding them, looking after them. Every time they were sick, your heart dropped. To have someone come and say, no, I'm not going to your mom's house because she looked at me wrong. Or she spoke to my child and no one speaks to my child. A'udhu billah, what kind of an individual are you? Where's your deen? A'udhu billah. Or the same thing with the husband. No, you're not going to your mom's house. Why? Because I don't like the way she looked at me. I don't like the way she spoke about me. Or she said this about my sister. A'udhu billah. This is the person's mother, this is the person's child. Fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when it comes to this matter. You have that mindset when you're getting married. You're getting married to that person's family. If there's something that bad, for example, the mom's an atheist and you don't want to be, and the daughter is very attached to the mother, and you don't want your wife to be that close with an atheist, as an example, alright, don't get married in the first place. Don't get married in the first place. Why? Because if she's that close to her mother, and you know there's going to be a big issue, when you get married, it's either you're going to have an issue because she wants to keep that relationship, or you're going to cause an issue because you're trying to get your wife away from her. Which one do you want? Choose. You have an issue or you have an issue. If you don't want an issue, then don't get married in the first place. Don't get married. If you can't, for example, at the beginning, let's say the family, let's say they're good people, but they do some haram things. Maybe they celebrate birthdays, maybe they have like anniversaries, or sometimes they sit together, whatever it is. From the beginning, you can speak to your wife from the beginning and say, look, with me, birthdays are haram. I don't go to birthdays. I don't do anniversaries. So I understand that they're your family, but that's not something I want me and my family around. We'll do a billion halal things. On Eid, we'll do the biggest parties. Graduations, etc. The halal things, we'll do the biggest of things. And all your family, ahlan wa sahlan, the men with the men, the women with the women. And when they do something halal, we'll be there. But anything haram, I don't want to be around. If your wife accepts, khairu barakah. But if your wife tells you from the beginning, look, I know it's haram, but they're my family and I want to stay close to them. Don't say, you know what, alright, I'm going to get married and inshallah she follows me later. Why? You got an issue or you got an issue. Leave the issue. So if you know from the beginning how to avoid, that there's going to be problems, then it's upon you to do what you need to do to avoid the problem. It's upon you to do what you need to do to avoid the issue. You're marrying into a family. Don't try and break that. This is another big problem. If the son loves his mum, loves his dad, loves his brothers and sisters, don't as a wife, wallah, come and get jealous. No, he kissed his mum. Well, what do you mean he kissed his mum? Yeah, no, I don't like it. What? La ilaha illallah. Yani, can we pause all violence laws for 1 second in Australia? Just so we can do things that are illegal? What do you mean you don't like your husband kissing his mum? Or sometimes, for example, the husband with the wife, oh, she wants to go and spend time with her sister. Where's her? No, I don't want her to go. Why? Heck. What do you mean heck? What do you mean heck? What kind of... There's levels of like, don't be a la'im. Don't be this slow person. You understand you're marrying a human being. You're marrying a human being. They have, once and again, we'll speak about that inshallah. This person you're marrying into her family, is it haram? Is she doing something haram? No. Is she doing that taken away from your rights? No. Then why you want to move away? Or when you have grandchildren, Allahu Akbar, this is another door. Sometimes I have grandchildren, and I don't want anyone to be around my children. What do you mean you don't want anyone to be around your children? Now, sometimes I go to my in-laws' house, and they give my son chocolate, and I don't want to have chocolate. Okay, good. I understand, believe me, because my dad always gives my children chocolate. I said, Dad, Allah khalik. My dad, he calls me overweight, and then he'll bring me the same day, wallahi, the same day, he'll bring me a kilo of hulu. Dad, he can't, you can't do both. Okay, at the same time, He gives my kids sweets. And he looks after himself now, tabarakallah. He's on this amazing diet, and he gives my dad, you're on a diet now. Why are you giving my kids all the chocolates and lollies? He goes, Baba, they're kids. I love to see them smile, Baba. I said, what can I do? Hey, Jazakallah khairan. Sometimes the grandparents, they do things. They say nothing is more beloved to the parent, nothing is more beloved than the child except the child of the child. Again, we don't know. We're all young, alhamdulillah. Inshallah, ya Rabbi, we get to that level. Yeah, we get to that age where our children marry good people, inshallah, and they have, again, righteous, healthy children, ya Rab. So when we're at that level, inshallah, we're going to say, subhanallah, how I used to be, and what I used to say, and what I used to think. This is a grandparent's dream, or parents' dream that they get to have when their children get older, that they get to have grandchildren, inshallah. They gave them a chocolate. Okay, say, please, Allah khalikun, I don't want, give them this instead of that, give them this instead of that. If they don't do it, khalas, what are you going to do? It's one chocolate in the week. No problem. One chocolate in the week or two chocolates in the week. All right, they're not going to die from it, inshallah. No issues are going to happen. Their children, they'll be fine, inshallah. But then cause issues. Or for example, they want to sleep over the parents' house. And the parents, if there's major haram that they promote the kids doing, no, this is different. Okay, if they're telling the kids that don't pray or eat bacon or something, of course this is a major, we're not saying major sins. Okay, but for example, they put YouTube on, okay, for the kids. We say, Baba, Mama, whoever it is, please, there's stuff on it that's not good. Here, these are things like Zaki or whatever. Only put this on for them, please. Or only let them watch this time or this time, or whatever it may be. Or you on the iPad, you have things that you download from Netflix that you only let them watch, whatever it may be. Work around it. But to say, nah, my children, they don't do exactly what I want with my children. They're not going to be, they're never going to see my kids. This is very bad. Very, 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 very bad. Okay? Again, there are exceptions. There are exceptions where grandparents shouldn't see children, yeah. But those exceptions are so minimal, and those circumstances need to be so extreme for you to have a justification Islamically to cut off that tie of kinship. The general rule is their parents, their grandparents. They see the grandchildren, and don't cause issues for your spouse when it comes to them and their family. Number 7, marriage will not solve all of your problems. For the ones that aren't married yet, please understand this point. Marriage will not solve all of your problems. Sometimes it will make your problems worse. Sometimes it will make your problems worse. If you have issues, whether your issues are in fitna being too much for you, or you have issues that you yourself, you're not happy, and you've got personal, emotional, or mental issues. If you have issues financially, if you have issues with your family, whatever the case may be, don't think that marriage is going to automatically solve all your issues. Some people look at marriage as an escape. If you look at marriage as an escape, there's a very good chance you're going to fall into a bigger problem. Because now you're taking on a whole new individual, a whole new human being. And that person's added in your life, and now you're moving into a house together. And you can imagine the financial stress that comes about, the emotional stress that comes about dealing with another human being, the societal stress, visiting this person, and now you need to visit that person, and people want to visit you. There's a lot of issues that happen. So when you get married, try and fix your problems before you get married. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect, but at least be at a level where you're able to enter a marriage and be good, inshallah. But if you get married, things are going to solve all your problems, you're mistaken. Even your, especially for the men, even your physical desires, your intimate desires, okay? Don't think it's all going to be 100% fulfilled. Inshallah, it's going to assist a lot. But some people, mashallah, their levels are very high. So they'll be like, okay, I want to get married, and now I want to get married to a second, a third, and a fourth. And if there's a fifth fatwa, I'll get to a fifth command. It happens to a lot of brothers. Just because you got married doesn't mean you can start looking around and say, okay, I'm going to get to my wife now. No. You still have to lower your gaze. If it's too much, too fast Mondays and Thursdays, if it's, don't be on social media, etc., etc., etc. Okay? So I don't think it's going to solve all of your issues. Solve them before you get married. Some brothers, this discussion has come up once or twice. Certain psychologists or counselors, they've put up posts about certain people having certain mental health issues that they shouldn't get married until their problems are solved. And some brothers, they were discussing it and they got very upset. So why are you getting upset? They're not talking about little issues, little things. But someone who's got very bad anxiety, for example, got very bad, guy or girl, has got very bad anxiety. When they get married, that anxiety continues. And anxiety didn't automatically go away. So if you're a spouse, it's very hard to do with someone who's got very bad anxiety. Okay, look, we're going to my sister today. No, I can't go. Why can't you go? I've got anxiety. What do you mean got anxiety? I can't move. What do you mean can't move? Everything's working. Yalla, get up and go. I can't move. I can't go. I'm sweating. I'm crying. They vomit. Now what the heck's going on? Where's the restart button? The system's shutting down. What's going on? They don't understand. It can happen. Someone's got very bad depression. It happens a lot. Okay, a husband comes home from work. His wife's very depressed from something before marriage. He comes home. She's crying. What the heck? What did I do? You didn't do nothing. Okay, what happened? I can't tell you. Ya Allah. He doesn't know how to do with it, so it causes the husband a lot of stress. Sometimes the husband, he's got issues. So the wife, you're thinking this guy's going to be a man, mad. I'm getting married, Allahu Akbar, finally. And the husband's, he's weird. He doesn't want to interact with anyone. He sits in a dark room by himself. What's going on? Of course, someone's got major issues. This person shouldn't get married until they sort out the issues. Because it's not fair. It's not fair that you get married to a person and you take all of your issues and put them on them also. It's not fair. So 100%, if a person's got these major issues, no. Solve your issues or at least get them to where they're at a controlled level. Or, bare minimum, expose your aib. Expose the deficiency to your spouse. Just like if there's a physical deficiency. For example, a man knows he can't have children, as an example. Or a woman knows she can't have children. That should be mentioned before the marriage happens. And if it's not mentioned before the marriage happens, the other partner can seek a divorce and they can get their money back. They can get their money returned. Okay? Be very careful. Be very careful of withholding a deficiency that affects the marriage. If a person, they themselves have major issues, then that should be exposed, that should be mentioned before, so that it doesn't affect the marriage. Or at least they accepted it before the marriage. But to have major issues where it's going to affect your day-to-day dealings with your marriage is not fair on the spouse. So don't withhold it. Number 8, the person that you're marrying, they're a human being and they have wants and needs also. If you're a husband, and for those that are watching, the camera is mirrored. Okay, so this is my right hand, not my left. Okay, for the camera, it will come up that I'm drinking with my left hand. Alhamdulillah, I'm not drinking with my left hand. Okay. Number 8, the person that you're marrying is a human being and they have wants and needs. They have wants and needs. Take the wants and needs of your spouse into consideration. Again, whether you're a husband or whether you're a wife, take the wants and needs of your spouse into consideration. Start off with the needs. What do they need from you? And discuss it, communicate. Okay? And be open to a little bit of change. I'm not saying change 100%, but sometimes the things that you spoke about before marriage, they might change a little bit after marriage. They might change a little bit. Okay? Be open to change. Just, even if it's a little bit. But what are their needs? What do they need from you? What do you need from them? And then what do they want? What can you offer? What is too much for you? Take that into consideration. Don't think that your wife is going to be exactly like you, because she's not. A man is a man and a woman is a woman. And we are two completely separate creations. This lie that we have today of the modern Western philosophy, which tries to make the man and a woman the same, this is, it's like calling my iPhone an Android. It's a clear, blatant lie. But people are just accepting it. They're accepting the lie. We're two separate creations. As a man, for example, there's nothing, this is a general man, there's nothing more beloved to you than being left alone. Ya Allah, how much you love being left alone. Come home from work, leave me alone. Wake up in the morning, leave me alone. All you want, you tell your wife exactly when you want her, and exactly what you want from her, and that's it. Inshallah, it's 3 minutes a day. Done, finished. Don't talk to me at all. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to talk to anyone. Leave me alone. What are you doing? Nothing. What? Are you bored? No. Are you upset? No. Are you angry with me? No. What's wrong? Absolutely nothing. Are you happy? Wallah, I'm the happiest person. That's what the man wants. The woman is the complete opposite. The woman, if she's left alone, what happens? It means something's wrong. Again, this is the general rule. The woman's left alone, something's wrong. So if you get home and you don't want to be talking to your wife, what happens to the woman? She thinks, what have I done wrong? What's my husband thinking? Who did my husband marry today? There's a whole bunch of things wrong for your mother. Her comfort, her recharge is in the companionship that she receives from you. So for example, you go and talk. Listen, didn't the Prophet ﷺ tell us we're allowed to lie in 3 times? What are those 3 times? What are those 3 times? War, brothers, fixing between 2 brothers, and number 3, to your wife. Okay, firstly, just so we understand the hadith, you only lie when it's in her benefit. Okay, not wallah, you ain't got married to a second wife, and she says, did you get married to her? La wallah, I didn't. Okay, no. It's only when it's in her benefit. Okay, in her benefit. For example, you say to your wife, like you just sit in there and you say, you know what, tabarakallah, I feel I am the most blessed man that Allah gave me as a wife. She knows that you are the biggest liar on the face of the earth, but she enjoys it. She gets happy, she gets comfort by you saying it. Whether it's real or not, she doesn't care. The main thing is that you said it. Same thing with her cooking, same thing with her cleaning, same thing with her mom, everything, like, praise everything. Okay? And she'll enjoy that, even if she knows that you're a liar. Because she gets, that's where she gets her comfort from. That's where her stamina continues from you being that person. So even if you sit, for example, with your wife, okay, you're a very busy person, like half an hour a day. Put the phones aside and just sit and talk. You say, Shaykh, what do I talk about? Akhi, use your imagination. You'll be sitting there thinking, what the heck is this conversation? But that's what your wife needs. You're like, wallah, if I seen a person having this conversation, this guy's retarded. There's something wrong with this guy. Why is he doing what he's doing? Who has a conversation like that? But that's what your wife needs. You don't have a conversation like that with your mates. With your mates, don't have that conversation. At the masjid, don't have that conversation. But with your wife, just like when you deal with children, you do them according to what they need. Sah? Your wife is not a man. You can't talk to her like a man. Like, you know, for us guys, for example, let me figure it out. Like if I told you my car's in the car park, for example, and there's only one car in the car park, what do I tell you? If you come back in and say, which one's your car? What do I say to you? They figure it out. If a wife, a lot of time you can't. Sometimes if she comes back and says, which one is it? In your mind, you want to think, but just say, Habibti, it's the red one, it's the blue one, it's this one. For example, if there's a lot of cars, for example, and you walk out, you say, which one is it? Maybe I'll just press the alarm. For example, as a guy, I'll just press the alarm and say which one turns on, or I'll press unlock and which one opens. That's the one. If your wife comes back, they don't think like you think. They're different. Men and women are different. Done, finished. And this is not a deficiency. Some people think, this is a deficiency in the woman. Or when we speak like that, we're speaking bad about the women. Wrong. When we speak like that, we're speaking great about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because men and women, we complete each other. Men and women, we complete each other. We are created as men and women and created a certain way for the betterment of society. If you married a person like you, how long can you last with him? Anjad. If you married a person like you, for example, like maybe you're the type, you like, babe, can you make me tea? Can you make me coffee, please? Can you get my clothes ready? If someone asked you to do that, what would you do? Like, you give me khula right now. I'm leaving, whether you like it or not. I'm calling the sheikh. You can't handle it. Okay? And same thing, if she's going to get married to someone who's going to be scared of cockroaches and spiders, the house is going to be overrun. Okay, when it comes to raising children, you need both the mother and the father. Can you as a father, Anjad, how long can you hold your child for? You will die for that child, but you can't hold him for more than 10 minutes. You will die for him, but not more than 10 minutes I can hold him. You will slave day and night outside on a work site. You will slave day and night in order for you to put a roof over his head and food and get them clothes, etc. But you can't babysit him for an hour. We're different. We're different beings. The wife, she can't go work on a job site, but she will hold that baby 24 hours if she needs to. You can't work, or for example, you go to work, you need a proper sleep, and you have a nap. The wife, she wouldn't have slept all night, but subhanAllah, she'll still run the whole house during the day. Allah created us different. We're created different and we complete each other. And this is how Islam looks at the society. That there's a man, there's a woman, they have roles. In order for society to be as best as possible, they complete each other. So when you do with your wife, you're not dealing with a man. So don't be like, man, why does she want to talk like that? Or like, what's the big deal? Or who cares who I was with? You don't know anyone that I was with. Hell, now you go home. Oh, who was at the masjid? Oh, what was the talk about? Let's say she watched the whole thing online. If she's watching right now, you're going to go home to her, oh, what did Shaykh talk about? But didn't you watch it? Yeah, so why are you talking about it? You watched it already. That's how you think as a man. She just wants to talk. Sometimes our wife, to show you how much they want to talk, sometimes they'll purposely start a fight just so you talk with them. Sometimes our wife, for the brothers that aren't married, I'm telling you, it's too good. Marriage is too good, inshallah. Okay, you'll be fine. When you get married, sometimes your wife will start a fight with you just so you can have a conversation. How long she wants to talk to someone, especially if she's been at home all day. Your husband gets home, she'll come and sit in his face. Ya Ammi, leave me alone, Shubeke. I need to talk to you. What about this happened? What's it got to do with me? No, we need to talk about it now. She doesn't want to fight. She's not a bad woman. And I'm not sisters, don't use that as an excuse, huh? Don't do it, please don't do it. Leave him at least half an hour, then talk to him. Okay? But sometimes they do it just because they want to have a conversation with you. Alright? So understand that people have wants and needs. A man has wants and needs. Give him what the man needs. And a woman has wants and needs. Give the woman what she needs. Khalas. This is how you have a very good relationship, inshallah. Jayyid. You both have boundaries, you both have limits. Take into consideration your limits. Compromise where compromise is needed. Be flexible where flexibility is needed. But take it all into consideration. So the 8 points that we mentioned. Number 1, the completing of half of your deen. Again, the narration of completing half of your deen is weak, but the meaning is correct. Number 2, marry the spouse you want your child to be like. Number 3, be realistic. Be realistic in your expectations, including in looks. Don't go too high, but also don't have no standards whatsoever. Number 4, marriage is intended to be long term. So fix the possible issues from the beginning before you're even married. Okay, and don't hasten to divorce. Number 5, you're marrying the person you're marrying. Don't expect them to change. Maybe 10% change, but don't expect them to be completely different people after marriage. Number 6, you're marrying into a family. Take that into consideration, both in the person that you're choosing, but also in how you're going to be after your marriage, inshallah, yani after you get married. And don't try to take them away from their family. Number 7, marriage will not solve all of your problems. Number 8, they're a human being with wants and needs also. هذا والله أعلم. صلى الله عليه وسلم محمد وعلى آله محمد وصحبه أجمعين.